Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's 8 p.m. and this is a new edition of Panorama News. In the upcoming 45 minutes, we'll be bringing you the latest of the political, economic and sports news from all around the world. I'm Henny Saif. I'll be bringing you the political news for tonight, and we'll start off with the headlines. Leading the way. Prime Minister Sharif Ismail discusses government program with MPs. Foreign Minister Sameh Shukri heads to Tunisia to attend meeting on Libya. And Arab League rejects Syrian Kurds federal region. Welcome back. The news in details. Prime Minister Sharif Ismail reiterated on Monday that the government is keen on revealing all facts and challenges facing the country with transparency when it submits its program to the Parliament on the 27th of March. Ismail said during his meeting with MPs from Sharqiya Governorate that the 2016-2015 budget amounts to 864 billion Egyptian pounds, including 164 billion allocated to services to be provided for citizens. He noted that this budget necessitates adding new resources. The Prime Minister said that the government program includes means of reducing inflation to 9% within 2 years, as well as reducing the budget deficit and dealing with the deficiencies in the trade balance. The program also includes means of creating new resources to guarantee sustainable development of state services and infrastructure. Final preparations are underway for the 5th meeting of defense ministers of the community of Sahel-Saharan states, which will be held in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, during the 22nd to the 25th of March. More than 27 Arab and African countries and delegations from other regional and international organizations would be participating in the meeting. The Interior Ministry is coordinating with the armed forces to secure the conference and the participating figures. Minister of Interior General Magdi Abdul Ghaffar vowed on Monday to find and punish terrorists responsible for attacking a Safa checkpoint in El Arish in northern Sinai on Saturday. The minister reviewed with a number of his aides and security leaders details of the attack and measures to be taken to prevent the recurrence of such incidents. The minister mourned the martyrs and paid condolences to their families. He noted that reinforcements will be dispatched and measures will be taken to prevent the recurrence of such attacks. He added that logistical support will be sent to Sinai in cooperation with the armed forces. On Saturday, a mortar attack on the checkpoint killed 15 policemen. Meanwhile, in efforts to fight terrorism, Army spokesman Brigadier General Mohammed Samir announced that the 3rd Field Army seized a car full of materials used for explosive manufacturing during their search operations at a checkpoint. He added that 2 people were arrested and investigations are underway. Foreign Minister Sameh Shukri arrives on Monday to Tunisia to attend a foreign ministers' meeting of countries in neighboring Libya. The meeting in the Tunisian capital aims at supporting the Libyan dialogue and stop armed conflict in Libya. The ministers will also discuss means of backing the country's legitimate institutions and reforming the army and security forces. A Syrian Kurd representative defended Monday the proclamation of a Kurdish federal region in northern Syria, saying it was not meant to be autonomous and only for Kurds. The Arab League on Monday rejected Kurdish-led moves for a federal system of government, saying they consist of separatist calls that harm the unity of Syria.
The Arab League has rejected last week's declaration by Syrian Kurds of a de facto federal region in northern Syria. The League's deputy chief, Ahmad bin Haili, said that calls for federalization could impact Syria's unity. Last Thursday, a meeting of some 200 Kurdish officials declared they were establishing a federal region. Officials insisted they are not seeking secession, but rather making sure the country remains one nation. In Syria's civil war, Kurdish fighters have emerged as the most effective fighting force against Daesh terrorist group and are backed militarily by the United States. The Kurds, a long-time oppressed minority, have taken advantage of the chaos of the civil war to advance their goals of autonomy. After government troops withdrew from Kurdish areas to focus elsewhere in Syria, they declared their own civil administration in 2013. The European Union's foreign policy chief, Federica Mogherini, has expressed optimism about Syria's peace process, urging international and regional actors to build on current favorable conditions. Mogherini says the recent developments have shown positive steps unseen in the previous 5 years of conflict in Syria. She was speaking about a truce that has been relatively holding across Syria since February 27th, and the flow of hundreds of trucks carrying aid to besieged areas. Mogherini spoke during the visit to Lebanon, where she met with Lebanese Foreign Minister Gibran Bassel. She says they also spoke about the Syrian refugees and attacks that have hit Lebanon and Europe. Syria's second round of UN-sponsored talks between the government and opposition have resumed in Geneva last week, are to continue later today.
At least 6 soldiers were killed Monday in an attack in western Iraq claimed by Daesh terrorist group that began with 5 suicide bombers ramming explosive-laden vehicles into a checkpoint. According to a statement by Daesh militants which said its fighters carried out the attack, several foreigners were among the bombers, including a Frenchman. A senior officer in the Iraqi army said that 9 soldiers were also wounded. The officer said that about 5 hours of clashes ensued, adding that all the attackers were killed with the support of strikes from the US-led international coalition. An Iranian-backed militia said on Monday it would treat US Marines deployed in Iraq to fight Daesh terrorists as forces of occupation and deal with the foreign troops. Washington said on Sunday a detachment of the 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit was in Iraq, bolstering efforts by the United States and a coalition of allies against Daesh militants. The militia claimed that the foreign forces are making a new suspicious attempt to restore their presence in the country under the pretext of fighting Daesh terrorist group. A Yemeni government official said on Monday that a new round of UN-brokered Yemeni peace talks could be held by the end of this month in Kuwait. The Yemeni official said that the talks would be accompanied by a ceasefire, much needed in the war-torn country where a Saudi-led coalition launched a military campaign in support of the internationally recognized government 1 year ago. The official added that Yemen's warring parties who met with UN envoy Ismail old Sheikh Ahmed last week have agreed on the principle of holding a new round of talks in late March in Kuwait. Previous UN-sponsored negotiations between rebels and government officials failed to reach a breakthrough, and the most recent round ended in acrimony in December. Saudi Arabia's official news agency says King Salman has met with the U.S. congressional delegation ahead of President Barack Obama's scheduled visit next month. The Saudi press agency says the delegation was led by ranking Senate Foreign Relations Committee member Ben Cardin, and included Democratic Senator Ed Markey of Maryland, Republican Senator Cory Gardner of Colorado, and Republican Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon. SPA says Saudi Crown Prince and Interior Minister Mohammed bin Nayef and Foreign Minister Adel al-Jubair also attended Monday's meeting. On Sunday, the senators met in Doha with Qatar's ruler Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. Obama is due to visit Saudi Arabia on April 21st and attend a Gulf Cooperation Council summit. The GCC includes Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Oman. The UN expert on human rights in the Palestinian-occupied territories voiced scathing criticism of Israel on Monday as he stepped down over what he said was a lack of access to areas he was meant to monitor. Makarim Wibisono, who took on the role of special rapporteur on the rights situation in the Palestinian territories in June 2014, presented his final report to the UN Human Rights Council, criticizing Israel's refusal to cooperate with his mandate. The Indonesian diplomat said he had been assured before taking up the position that he would have access to the occupied Palestinian territories. But he said repeated requests for access were unsuccessful. The EU representative, Peter Sorensen of Denmark, said he regretted that Israel had not allowed Wibisono to access the Palestinian territories. According to partial results published Monday, the pro-government Yes camp won a majority in Senegal's constitutional referendum. Opposition parties and several civil society groups had urged Senegalese to vote no, saying that President Macky Sall has reneged on an earlier promise to leave office early. The referendum's official results will be published on Friday by the country's Electoral Commission and require Constitutional Court approval. Benin Prime Minister Lionel Zinsou on Monday conceded defeat to Patrice Talon, handing the businessman victory in presidential elections in a vote hailed as an example for democracy in action. Zinsou said that he called Patrice Talon to congratulate him on his victory and put himself at his disposal to prepare for the handover. The head of Benin's Independent Electoral Commission, Emmanuel Tiando, said that Talon won 65.39% of the vote, with Zinsou on 34.61%. Some 4.7 million people were eligible to vote to elect a successor to Benin's outgoing president, Thomas Boniai. French President François Hollande said the election was a tribute to the strength of Beninese democracy and pledged his cooperation on development, energy, good governance, and transparency, and the fight against terrorism. U.S. Vice President Joe Biden warned that the United States is watching Iran like a hawk to ensure compliance with the landmark nuclear deal. Biden said that if Iran violates the deal, the United States will act. In a speech marking Persian New Year, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei had accused Washington of failing to respect the terms of the deal. Khamenei said that the United States has lifted sanctions on paper under the deal, which came into effect in January, adding that the U.S. is using roundabout paths to prevent Iran from achieving its targets. Biden also touched on peace efforts between Palestinians and Israelis and the prospects for a two-state solution. He said that Israel's government's steady and systematic process of expanding settlements, legalizing outposts, and seizing land is eroding the prospect of a two-state solution. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan said that Turkey would use all its military and intelligence might to battle what he called one of the biggest and bloodiest terrorist waves in its history, following a spate of suicide bombings. Turkey's main opposition party blamed what it called the government's adventure-seeking policies in the Middle East for turmoil washing across Syria's borders. On Monday, 3 Turkish soldiers were killed in a bomb attack on their military vehicle in the Nusaybin near the Syrian border. Seoul officials said that North Korea on Monday fired 5 short-range missiles into the sea off its east coast, in a continuation of weapon launches it has carried out in apparent response to ongoing South Korea-U.S. military drills it sees as a provocation.
Officials said that North Korea fired 5 short-range projectiles into the sea today in a continuation of weapon launches it has carried out in apparent response to ongoing South Korea-U.S. military drills it sees as a provocation. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said that the projectiles launched from the site near the northeastern city of Hamhung flew about 200 kilometers before landing in waters off North Korea's east coast. The South Korean military was attempting to determine whether the projectiles were missiles, artillery shells, or rockets. The firings came 3 days after Seoul said that North Korea launched its first medium-range ballistic missile into the sea since early 2014. The firings appear to be North Korea's response to annual springtime U.S.-South Korean military exercises that it says are a rehearsal for an invasion. In the past 2 weeks, North Korea has fired several short-range missiles and artillery shells into the sea and threatened preemptive nuclear strikes against Washington and Seoul. This year's drills are the largest ever. The U.S. Special Representative for North Korean Policy, Sung Kim, who is visiting Seoul, said that North Korea should refrain from all provocative actions, including missile tests, which are clearly in violation of Security Council resolutions.
Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev ordered officials on Monday to examine whether Russia's flight safety rules need to be tightened up after a passenger jet crashed in southern Russia, killing all 62 people on board. Investigators were trying to repair the damaged voice recorder recovered from the plane so they could recreate the conversations of the pilots in the moments before their Boeing 737-800 slammed into the ground. The plane, operated by Dubai-based budget carrier Fly Dubai, crashed in the early hours of Saturday at the Rostov-on-Don airport in strong, gusting winds on its second attempt to land. Medvedev told the government to analyze the reasons behind the crash. There is so far no suggestion of terrorism. Russian media said the two main theories under consideration by investigators are possible pilot error or a technical failure. Spanish investigators on Monday sought to establish the cause of a weekend coach crash that killed 13 female students from 6 countries, most of them Italians, as they were returning from a festival. Regional authorities said that the vehicle was carrying 57 students from about 20 countries, many of them on the European Erasmus exchange program in Barcelona. The driver lost control of the coach, which crossed the central reservation and crashed into an oncoming car near the small Catalonian town of Freginals on Sunday. Jordi Jain, who heads up interior matters for Catalonia, told a news conference that 7 Italians, 2 Germans, a Romanian, a French woman, and an Austrian, and a student from Uzbekistan, all women aged between 19 and 25, were killed. He said that 34 people were injured, but declined to indicate the seriousness of their injuries.